Venus is now in Capricorn. It's currently 10 degrees into the sign ruled by Saturn and born out of the 10th house. With that said, it's now easier to relate, commit and have pleasure in new routines, new patterns and new senses of business. Also, it's easier to be gullible, used and played when it comes to create new routines and patterns or to create new relationships or new values in structure, networking and association. At the same time, it's easier to bring a more light, fun but also fake and unpredictable time and energy to places of business, safety and structure, especially when it comes to you dealing with people or potential opportunities to expand or just maintain the resources, the efficiency, the safety and predictability of your routines and patterns. Although Capricorn represents initiating new aspects of structure and safety, we are always looking to find a form of predictability or something to expect, correct? So Capricorn can make us nervous in general, especially Sun is in Capricorn together with Mars, so there is a big emphasis on new routines and new patterns. But we always looking for a sense of consistency, right? So we gotta learn with Venus in Capricorn, we have the ability to learn, there is the opportunity to learn, to bring a sense of equilibrium and balance between creating those new routines and patterns or just creating new feelings, new ideas about routines and patterns that can lead you to success or business, and the consistency. So Venus in Capricorn is a big opportunity to find balance between creation, innovation and insecurity, and consistency, stability and stubbornness as well, because sometimes even though you are creating something new in your life, things might not work out, or they might work out and you still need to be stubborn, sometimes more than consistent. You need to be stubborn to change how you see yourself, how you see your routines and patterns, and to also others can take their time and create their new perspectives about you and your business. So if you stay stubborn, you can show them the inspiration and the purpose behind the new routines or the new perspectives that you have when it comes to business, reality, networking and association. And while I was preparing for this reading, the key words that I created for Venus in Capricorn for the year of 2026 right now is keep structure cute, but efficient. So now it's a great time to also innovate, use the external side of Venus, your routines and patterns and your sense of business, so it becomes more pleasurable, more communicative, and more efficient, and still with a sense of privacy, safety, and security. You might be going through some misunderstandings or insecurities since you are creating new ways to think, communicate, and analyze about the whole situation of Capricorn, responsibilities and business. So it might take you some time and others some time to adapt and create more positive, realistic, and sophisticated ways to be, acting, express, and socialize in those realms. And today in this reading, I took a tarot card to represent the general image of Venus in Capricorn for the year 2026. Also keep in mind there was already a bit of Venus, a third of Venus in Capricorn season that happened in 2025, so this reading can also apply to some past moments and past ways that you related or committed in your routines and patterns. So the general card, the general picture is the Six of Pentacles. This means that you and also others are bringing and or have the opportunity to bring more attention, more authority, more entertainment, more awareness and more uniqueness and individuality to places of business, structure, safety, privacy, and efficiency. So this can come in two ways, or from two main spaces, I mean. A space of creating new relationships, or new ways to deal with relationships and the relationship subjects. This can be new ways to communicate, sharing new values, sharing new interests, or imagine you watch a show together, or you have this routine and pattern within your relationships. You might introduce something or be introduced at something new, or a new perspective, a new feeling, or a new dynamic about the same thing that you keep doing. So new relationships or new ways to go about those relationships in areas of structure, but also just purely New routines and patterns, new structures, new limits, or new responsibilities can make you and others follow this path to bring more awareness, to bring more attention to your business, structure, and responsibilities. This can come from you getting literally new responsibilities, or you feel a new, more sophisticated way, or you are forced to adapt and adopt into a new, more sophisticated way to communicate or commit. So maybe you need to commit a bit more, or you are expected to commit a bit more, and maybe you'll need to apply some limits and boundaries, because Capricorn is also about that, new limits and boundaries. So you might need to apply them to yourself so you can be more efficient, or you can be seen or see in a better way routines and patterns, or you're literally forced to have more responsibility, to have more to deal with, more to think about. Maybe you are more responsible, feel more responsible about a relationship. Or now, imagine you are in a team at work, maybe you can feel more in charge, even though nobody gave you that role. You might be creating that role for you to be more in charge of the communication and dynamics, or the values being exchanged and the goals that need to be achieved. Or it's literally expected from you to assume that role, and you might not be able to, you might not want to, you might not feel you are receiving the deserved value and rewards to use so much of your energy, use so much of your mental capability to relate and create new ways to keep things dynamic and efficient while achieving for a core set of values, right? So you might feel like you're not getting enough from using so much energy, or you might be projecting that into the future, and maybe you are not yet with an offer done to you. Maybe just in your imagination, you are already seeing some steps ahead, and you might be seeing if you commit too much, or if you give too much of yourself to a current situation, relationship, or teamwork effort. Others might be expecting too much from you, and then you'll be having to do too much and not receive the right reward. So you might want to limit yourself right now with new limits and boundaries, or you might be able to smooth things out and assume new responsibilities while being able to delegate and share the load physically, mentally, or emotionally. So in general, Six of Pentacles with Venus in Capricorn means creating new, sophisticated and social routines, patterns, limits, and boundaries to achieve or maintain more authority, more attention, and more energy in general to your business, structure, social, personal, and physical responsibilities and circumstances. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or Mars in Aries, you are squaring Venus in Capricorn, so you are learning how to create new routines and patterns that have more structure, but also an easier time to relate and commit and to receive others' relatability and commitment when it comes to your personal feelings, spirituality, and creativity about reality, structure, and safety. Also, others are learning how to see you in your unique self in a more relatable, soft, and sophisticated, and also valuable way. And your tarot card for Venus in Capricorn 2025 and 2026 is the Tower Mars. So you're gonna be feeling a bit more in your element, or others are learning how to relate to you in a more realistic and structured way in your own element. So the Tower can represent you or your relationships or people in your surroundings, seeing you, valuing you, and judging you. So because of Venus, right? Venus, relatability, relationships, it goes both ways. It's all about the appearance, the external, and how you communicate and how you commit. Not just what you are communicating, not just what you are committing to, but how, the vibe, the relationship, the exchange in general. It's a bit more focusing on that. So the Tower in general represents change, but not just change in general, is a change to something that you build up, or something that you participating together with others building up, like a tower brick by brick, exchange per exchange. Let's focus on Venus here because it's a Venus reading after all. So let's focus on exchanging, committing, having pleasure. So either you had this personal build up, this personal construction, or you were participating in this personal construction, or you had within the relationship your own accumulating progress of growth, new perspectives, new ways to be yourself, new ways to relate or to receive relatability. And now that is crumbling completely. All that construction, all that tower is going down, or a part of it, the top or just the side, and then you can fix it perhaps, but not by using the same building blocks, the same experiences, the same values, the same ways to connect and be relatable. Now, especially with Aries, cardinal fire, creating new feelings, imaginations and creativity, you're gonna construct new building blocks, and the material that you're gonna use, or have the opportunity to use, is Capricorn. So structure, routines, patterns, limits, boundaries, and responsibility. And then you're gonna use Venus, relatability, sophistication, commitment, and gullibility, to use your creativity, passion, and spirituality to build the new building blocks to fix a part of the tower or to fix it completely. Or you might be in the case where you had something building together with somebody else, or with a group of people, or with a team, and you experience a part of it or its totality going down. And then it's all about creating new dynamics and new responsibilities. Who's gonna build what? Whose fault was it? What caused the building to fall? And most likely, you, in your personal circumstance, or on a teamwork circumstance, have to come to the conclusion that it's good. It's always good that a tower falls, that something that you were building up falls, or a part of it. It feels bad, and we must respect, we must grieve what have fallen, but we must be happy and celebrate that we have the opportunity to reconstruct better and more, or to fix what was already being constructed and got destroyed with better and upgraded building techniques or materials, aka relationships and experiences, the materials, and your abilities, your craftsmanship is how you derive wisdom, knowledge, and pleasure out of those experiences, feelings, and thoughts. So, in the end of the day, it's up to you, Aries, to create a new image, a new creative spiritual perspective, and come to the conclusion in your own way that this is good, and also be passionate and aggressive enough to take action and force others to take action while being relatable and acceptable and recognizing the reality of the structure or networking dynamic that got destroyed or reshaped, so you can build it on your own or together in a more relatable way while having all of your uniqueness and spiritual concept. There might be some struggles here about who has the responsibility to do what, who deserves to receive what, who deserves to work on what, who will be working more, who has more responsibility, who has less responsibility, and you yourself might feel too responsible, like you have too many things to deal with, or you might feel not responsible enough, aka you might feel like others don't trust you or don't value enough to take certain responsibilities to build back something that was destroyed, or you might be feeling guilty or being thrown guilt at because Mars, your quote-unquote father, your main element, is in Capricorn as well, and it's exalted. So you might be experiencing extreme feelings of responsibility or extreme responsibility in itself, or you might be feeling extreme low feelings of responsibility, or that might just be the case, and you have to build something up, you have to build a new structure, way to commit and have network and value to yourself and others. And that's the tower, something that falls down, and then you have to rebuild it. And you have the opportunity to do it in a better, more sophisticated, relatable, committed, and light way about structure, business, and networking. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus in Taurus, you are trining Venus in Capricorn in 2025 and 2026. And that's really good because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. Taurus is the feminine and internal side of the planet of relationships and commitment. So that means that you have an easier time connecting to this energy. And also, Taurus trines Capricorn, which is already a gift to communicate easier and see each other's sides in a more common and relatable way. Capricorn in itself is ruled by Saturn. It's the internal side of Saturn, so more feminine and recipient, but it can give more masculinity and more responsibility to the energy of Taurus, taking it away from emotions, feelings, and insecurities, because also the moon is exalted in Taurus. So Taurus, even though they represent the element of earth, responsibility, dryness, committing to the cause, they are the most emotional by far earth signs, and they can go extreme with emotions, feelings, and moods, especially if their privacy or safety is at risk, or if they feel some way exposed about their desires and how they organize things in their own way, because they might feel judged by others, it's not efficient or not fast enough. But Tauruses really prioritize the feeling, especially Taurus moons and Taurus risings, they really, and Venuses as well, less the Taurus sun, they really prioritize the feeling, the vibe, feeling good, their own pace, and they respect their insecurities, which can be really strong if you are doing that to heal them, to make them a security instead of an insecurity. If you're just being controlled by them, you are inferior to them, that's not good, and you need to take more action. But if you have Taurus energy, you can respect them, feel them, go through them, and then when you feel it's right, or you force yourself a little bit, or you receive certain enforcing energies and situations from the world and the ones around you, you recognize, okay, this is forcing me to heal this insecurity, and that's okay because I worked on it. Fixed earth, consistency, working towards something, and then moon is exalted in there, Venus is in there, so in a sophisticated, fair, balanced, and intelligent way. And now Venus in Capricorn is a gift to Taurus to initiate new routines and patterns, and also new status and senses of value in a more sophisticated, light, communicative, but also gullible and too pleasurable and too easy to be enticed way. So good positive aspect, it's easier for Taurus to open up, and it's easier for others to be open up to Tauruses to initiate new routines and patterns, or to initiate new limits and boundaries. On the negative side, it's too easy for the Tauruses to feel too comfortable or too insecure, and then initiate new routines and patterns that support or limits them in that echo chamber, in that self-sabotaging energy. Tauruses and Pisces share this a lot. Self-sabotage energy. Pisces are more active, they create more problems for themselves. Taurus, they are more inactive, they let things accumulate because they don't feel ready, they don't feel right, they need to rest, they need to eat, they need some time, and sometimes things just accumulate too much, and then Tauruses are forced to go to their opposing energy, Scorpio, where it's the internal side of Mars, where things accumulate so much that it causes explosions, transformation. Because usually transformation, also associated with Pluto, happens when you don't take regular change. Because first, the only thing constant in the universe is change, and spirits love to change. Spirits live in all possibilities. You, I, will live in all possibilities. And we created this possibility out of choice. But in general, because we live in all possibilities, if our spirit gets interested in the new aspect of itself, or it got an example from another spirit and learn from it, and now you want to experience a part of it, the spirit always likes to feel free to explore and change into something, while always having a safe place to come back. That's usually your moon. And remember, moon is exalted in Taurus. But when Taurus let things accumulate too much, and they don't allow their spirit, or they restrain their spirit, because the spirit creates this body, so it is connected to it. The body influences the spirit, and the spirit influences the body. It's a relationship. Venus, Tauruses really understand that relationship, if they're not too blinded by something else, you know what I'm saying? But then Taurus are forced, when they accumulate too much, to go into that extreme process of change in a very short period of time, in reality or internally. And then they're really forced to go through that, maybe go through huge misunderstandings, fights with themselves, go too deep into desires, or go too deep into limiting themselves, and then things explode, things happen really, really fast. But Taurus usually have the mental and the emotional backbone, and usually they have if they're not too perturbed, if they're not too insecure, and if they're not traumatized from their childhood and teenage years, Tauruses usually have a structure or a situation that is safe, and they already figured the energetical exchange, so they're not too tired or dried from them to fall back, still having that routine and pattern or situation that is safe, allows them to have enough to live by and allows them to have enough activity to feel valued while they are going through all those extreme emotions and feelings. But coming back to Venus in Capricorn, it's also easier for Tauruses here to be too gullible and too extremely committed to new routines and patterns or new feelings or senses of reward and pleasure in routines and patterns. And your tarot card for Venus in Capricorn is the Prince of Swords, Mutable Air. This means Tauruses are developing a new external way to associate, be mutable, and be a part of something when it comes to thinking, communicating, analyzing, socializing, and having relationships in a more light, cold, detached, but also intelligent, balanced, and sophisticated way. So you have the gift to maintain your structure, maintain your values and your support systems, and then through Venus in Capricorn, initiate new routines and patterns, new senses of value and responsibility that will allow you and others to associate each other easier in a lighter, sophisticated, cold, and detached way. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or Mercury in Gemini, you are inconjuncting or misunderstanding Venus in Capricorn. That means that you are misunderstanding or being misunderstood when you and others initiate new routines and patterns and new senses of responsibility. That might be happening because your way to think, communicate, and analyze is more light, cold, and detached, but you still have a very easy time to associate yourself, to communicate and be a part of something. So right now, everybody is looking to initiate more responsible, safe, and efficient relationships. Your light way to communicate might make people insecure or unsure about you because they have a more private, sophisticated, and realistic vibe about it. So your lightheartedness, your coldness, or your scatteredness can make them feel insecure, and you can feel unsure and unsafe because others are now trying to commit too much, they are demanding too much, or they are being not clear enough with their communication, exchanges, and senses of value. So you want to be light, you want to communicate, you want to be a part of something, but now they expect a bit more serious values, more serious and responsible ways to communicate, be sophisticated, and comment and think about society and structure in general. So now it's a bit weird, it's a bit kind of like, it's not too serious, not too bad, but it's like, what? So you want me to go too deep, but I want to be light? And they be like, why you so light? Why you so detached? Why you communicating so easily? Why you so open? You know what I'm saying? But in all inconjunctions and misunderstandings, there is a common ground. And the common ground between Gemini and Capricorn is the sense of reality, innovation, and facts. Thinking, having ideas, analyzing, wanting and needing clarity and like space, clear space, not a lot of space, but clear space. That space needs to be clear with good network of information. Gemini then wants way more information, and Capricorn is more selective, and they like to initiate their own thought processes and their own principles out of things that they can deduce by themselves in a realistic, practical, and safe way. So that can be also a bit of a misunderstanding in that area. Gemini wants a lot of information, Capricorn is selective, but the common ground is reality, clearness, intelligence, making sense. So with Venus in Capricorn, you can be misunderstood in new relationships or new structures and senses of value and reality within relationships, or you might be misunderstood and misunderstand yourself, new ways to commit, discern value, have pleasure and enjoyment in reality, in practicality, in limits, and in boundaries. And your tarot card is the Two of Swords, so this means more relatability or more personal relationships, connections, and changes of information or values. Also, this means that you are learning how to become more open, or others are learning how to become more open to you. And it's two, right? So it's more personal, comes right after one. One represents you, uniqueness, individuality, and two is more unique, more personal, more close to your heart or close to your surroundings, communications, thoughts, ideas, relationships, experiencing something together, or having common thoughts and common ideas about your surroundings, the world, entertainment, responsibility, structure, and networking. So, in general, after all the misunderstandings, or even you are supposed to go through the misunderstandings to create or find more personal and unique relationships, conversations, and common experiences and common fields of thought with yourself and your surroundings. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or Jupiter in Cancer, you are opposing Venus in Capricorn. That means you can be opposed, or you can be the one opposing to new and realistic, creative, structured, and responsible ways to commit, have pleasure, relate, and be social. This comes from the fact that as a Cancer, you like to initiate new emotions, new feelings, new dreams, new illusions, and new spiritual concepts, and Capricorn is more about new routines, new patterns, and new responsibilities, together with new senses of structure. So the opposition comes from there, but actually, when there is opposition, there is also a great opportunity for balance to meet halfway through the discussion, quote unquote. So you now can be balanced by Venus in Capricorn, so you can relate and be related in a more structured, responsible, and intense way. But Venus brings an easier time to relate, be light, and have pleasure. And you can bring balance by initiating new purposes, new dreams, and new personal goals to routine, pattern, and structures that you participate all around you. And Venus helps others receive and helps you give in a more realistic and common ground way. Keep in mind that Jupiter is conjuncting Cancer and it's right now opposing Venus in Capricorn, so there are also opposing ways for you to be influenced by Jupiter, aka you expand and initiate new ways to travel and have wisdom and knowledge about spirituality and emotions, and then you can relate that easier in your realistic and structured way, or in realms of reality and structure, or you can be opposed because others, and even yourself in your mind, want to relate and commit in a more serious, realistic, dry, and calculative way. And your tarot card for this Venus in Capricorn season is the Queen of Swords. So that means that in all this opposition and games to achieve balance between your new emotions and feelings and between new ways to relate in a more realistic way, you can receive great support when it comes to relationships, thinking, communicating, and analyzing in more sophisticated, consistent, and unique ways. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising in Leo, you are conjuncting Venus in Capricorn. That means you are misunderstanding how you and others are creating new ways to commit, socialize, and have relationships in more realistic, structured, and limited ways. This happens because you have a more consistent or stubborn way to act, see, and express, and you care more about uniqueness, individuality, spirituality, imaginations, and entertainment. And Venus in Capricorn, it still has that relatability, that pleasure, that interaction, sharing experiences, but it's more realistic, structured, and looking for profit. So you care a bit more about the vibe, the feeling, and the value of the experience. Venus in Capricorn looks more about the structure, the reality, and the value out of the experience. Not of the experience, but out of the experience. You know what I'm saying? So this means that you might be misunderstood when trying to relate, have some fun, and commit, because others might be seeing you too light, too stubborn, too goofy, too spiritual, or too unique, and they expect something more serious, more relatable, and more common ground. Or you might be misunderstanding others because they approaching you or they demanding that you relate in a more realistic, down-to-earth, cold, and dry way, and you just by nature are more spirited and more light. This can create some insecurities in you, and you might quote-unquote surrender, be gullible to this new pressure to relate in a more realistic way, or actually might be able to balance through the misunderstanding though, Others might not see that consciously, but subconsciously, you might be supporting them with your different way, with your light, with the things that you pay attention to, and as a Leo, of course, the attention that you attract. And then you can bring that to places of structure and business and initiate new visions there, or you can initiate new visions about yourself and then create or attract new businesses, structures, and responsibilities. And of course, in the middle of the misunderstandings and inconjunctions, there is common ground. And the common ground between Leo and Capricorn is consistency, structure, patience. So through the misunderstandings, you can find a more relatable, sophisticated, or gullible way to be stubborn, consistent, and have structure in paying and receiving attention in business and structure. Your tarot card is the Prince of Wands. That means that you are developing a new external way to associate and let others associate to you feelings, visions, and imaginations and spiritual purposes and meanings out of new routines, new patterns and new limits, or new ways to relate, commit, and be gullible in structure, networking, and association. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or Mercury in Virgo, you are trining Venus in Capricorn 2025 and 2026. So you have a gift to initiate new ways to relate and commit in more practical and responsible ways. You can benefit from that by having Virgo in those signs. You are more mutable and associative with your routines, patterns, and ways to organize. So now it's easier to bring more firmness, structure, and responsibility to relationships, interactions, and conversations in those same areas. On the negative side, it's a bit easier for you to quote-unquote surrender to feelings of inferiority, gullibility, and lack of value, and you might allow others to relate, and then you commit to that relatability, so others will then initiate new limits and boundaries and new responsibilities into your own routine or into your mind that will perturb, break the efficiency or the safety of how you are efficient, organized, and have pleasure in routine, pattern, work, health, and organization. On the positive side, it's easier for you to communicate, it can be easier for others to listen to you, it can be easier for you to see the value, it can be easier for others to see your value. Also, it's easier for you to engage when you see good value. It's easier for you to commit, and it's easier for you to commit not so deep and not so entirely, because it's Capricorn, it's initiating, it's the first steps, so not so deep, okay, not so investing a lot of your time and structure into new routines and patterns. It's more a gift to explore, to open new doors by actually doing some routines and patterns or really considering them, and then you can get some feelings, get some vibes out of it, and fortunately, hopefully, after this Virgo in Capricorn, you created a more sophisticated, innovative, and valuable way to socialize, commit, and have pleasure in routines and patterns. Your tarot card for this transit is the Five of Pentacles. This means more emotion, more feeling, more attachment, and more spirituality brought into realms of reality, structure, consistency, businesses, and your physical circumstances. This can be good. It means you can find more purpose, more pleasure, and connection to your routines and patterns, or you can be delusional, you can be living an illusion, or you can be driven and extorted out of your ideas, time and space into reality, structure, networking, and associations. Because we're talking about Venus in Capricorn, also others might initiate new ways to feel better and to see you in a more attractive and valuable way, and you also can bring a more juicy and caring feeling to yourself and your routines and patterns. So you might be creating new routines and patterns or new thoughts and ways to be real that actually brings you some health, brings you some wealth in a more pleasurable way, but you have to initiate, You have to create or be open to associate yourself with a new creation when it comes to communicating, being sophisticated, and being committed, gullible, or having pleasure in routines, pattern networking, and association. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising Venus and Saturn, or Saturn in Libra, you are squaring Venus in Capricorn, but Venus is your ruling planet. Libra is the masculine, external, more expressive side of the planet of relationship and commitment. So even though it's a squaring opportunity, some learning lessons, some tension, the fact that Venus is in there means a more light, sophisticated, or on the negative side, more personal and intense pressure or hardships, or just leaving behind something comfortable into going something a bit more uncomfortable than usual. And we are learning, and you, by having Libra in those signs, are learning how to relate, commit, communicate, and have pleasure in more realistic and structured ways, and in areas where you have responsibility and limits. Also, the world is learning how to relate to you, to your business and your structure in a more sophisticated, light, gullible, and pleasurable way. While I was taking the tarot card for the Libra reading, one of my final thoughts was you're going through a hell of a lot of pressure, and that can be good. You can psych yourself up to go through that pressure and become stronger, more structured, or you can be feeling hella limited as well and not able to initiate communications, relationships, and values in a way that you used to. But keep in mind, if you're going through the more troublesome and negative side of this experience, first, it's Capricorn, so we're creating something new. Give it time so you can solidify and become better at creating that. And also remember that you have the potential to create those things. You're always creating it. But also you can create some judgmental ways to judge yourself negatively, or you can be too relatable and too gullible right now when it comes to outside perspectives about how structured and organized you are, and you might give in into those quote-unquote haters, even though they might do it from a place of love. Since it's Libra you're talking about, you always have to prioritize your own way to create relationships and value. So right now you are learning how to not be so gullible or so impacted by external pressures and perspectives about reality and structure. And the tarot card is the King of Pentacles, which means you have the opportunity to learn or become, through the learning process, a great physical, structured, and organized support. Also, you can be an example on how to judge value and what's valuable in a positive, sophisticated, and accurate way, or you are learning how to make yourself see yourself as supportive, valuable. You know how to recognize value. You know how to initiate new routines, new limits, and new structures to achieve or maintain value, status, and some sort of predictability with enough space for creativity and innovation that can lead to further success and further stability and profitability. On the negative side, this means that others might already be expecting you to be a great support on the realms of reality and structure, and you're still developing, you're still becoming it, you're still creating new thoughts and ideas, new ways to relate, and then you are going through the learning process and becoming more Capricorn-like, or going against more Capricorn-like things, structure, limits, and responsibility. So others might want, they might need the responsibility and the structure that you can give them or give to yourself, and then they benefit from the structure that you built for yourself. Or others might look at you at the early stage of development and judge you by the value that you have right now, and they might not have patience or believe at all on what you can become through this Venus in Capricorn season, and they might judge you or throw you away immediately. And it's up to you to deal with that, to only expect from you, to only request highest value from you. You can't control others. You can influence them a little bit by becoming this yourself in your unique, sophisticated, but also responsible way. And all of this is about your element: relatability, sophistication, pleasure, communication, being a part of society, or talking, thinking, relating to parts of society. So it's up to you, really, to be you, be in your lane, and become in your own rhythm that you create, that you put out into the world, you becoming this great support when it comes to structure, profit, and organization, to then create and maintain relationships and exchanges, also ways to commit and have pleasure that are derived from you becoming this great support, and most likely others then can come to you and learn from you or relate to you, and all together benefiting from your support, and then they feel supported, and together you create something valuable for everybody else. And you have to keep your sense of value about yourself, your purpose, and what you are actually doing at the highest level, so you can go through all the learning lessons and hardships, even though you might be the one creating them in your mind or in reality. Go through them and create a good sense of value about yourself, so you can become a great support and a great example in realms of reality and structure. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, Pluto, Uranus, and or Mars in Scorpio, you are now sextiling Venus in Capricorn. This means you have an opportunity to create new ways to relate and commit in more structured, profitable, and organized ways. Also, others have an opportunity for themselves to create a more network and association, but also focused on realism, focus towards your own personality and scorpionic side, so they can be more open, but with certain limits, with certain checkpoints and expectations to your deep feelings, emotions, dreams, illusions, passion, and aggressiveness. And the tarot card for this transit is Justice, so you have the opportunity to create new realistic ways to relate and show to others and to yourself your value. Why are you valuable? And also, you are creating new ways to relate with others in realms of reality, structure, and business, and so you have an opportunity to judge better the value of others, what's valuable in a circumstance, what's valuable for me in accepting these limits and boundaries, what's valuable for me in accepting these terms and conditions, or what terms and conditions are the most valuable to me. You have the opportunity to develop, because it's Venus in Capricorn, and Capricorn is creating something new in the realms of reality and structure, so you have the opportunity to develop this sense of justice, this sense of value. And this will always gravitate around your deep passions, frustration, anger, and motivation, especially because Mars is also in Capricorn, which is your ruling sign. Scorpio is the more feminine and internal side of Mars. So you might have this extra passion or extra aggressiveness, and you have the opportunity to also balance that out. You have the opportunity to be a bit more logical and structured while keeping your vibes, while keeping your wisdom and knowledge, and then you can see if it's valuable to keep going in that extreme emotion, passion, or frustration. Or, better than that, you can find value, and through new realistic relationships, you can create physical circumstances or opportunities for business or supportive structures out of those extreme passions or aggressiveness, because you can do justice. You can set up the courthouse, you can set up the rules if you take the opportunity and learn how to communicate, socialize, and commit in new, more efficient, real, and organized ways. On the other side, you might be more emotional, you might not be able to be so logical, or you might not accept this opportunity, this sextile, you might not accept the limits and boundaries, the responsibilities, the way that the world is doing Venus right now, and you might have no ability, or you're rejecting it, to then create a network, a routine, or a business, for an example, to release and use your extreme emotions passions, and frustrations. And consequently, and also on its own, by you not being able to do yourself justice, by not being able to see or accept your value or the value of others, you might not create certain circumstances, or you might get stuck in certain routines and patterns that will not allow you, and you most likely not allowing yourself, to derive value from yourself. And then you can get extremely passionate, and extremely frustrated in a destructive sense. And then you can create ways to justify, to bring justice in a more personal, internal, and insecure way to your destructive ways. And instead of using Venus in Capricorn to build new, sophisticated, and structured relationships, you might be creating new, real, serious, and toxic relationships or scenarios by your lack of value, your lack of willingness to innovate yourself in areas to communicate and do business in reality and structure. And most of the cases, this will come from yourself, from you being too much in your bubble, too much in your emotions. And as a Scorpio, in those planets that I said earlier, that's most likely you're gonna be that much time. It's normal for you to spend that much time in your own bubble of emotions and feelings. But now you have the opportunity to relate and communicate, to socialize, using using those deep emotions to create something real, supportive, and valuable. But you gotta do yourself justice. You gotta see your value, you gotta claim your value, and you have to act according to your value and apply the right limits and boundaries to make sure that your value is recognized, and to make sure that others do not use you and they do not give you less than you are valuable for. Keep that in mind, you better believe it. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or Jupiter in Sagittarius, you are fatal attracting Venus in Capricorn. This means that you can learn from the external world, and you can receive from others new ways to relate and commit in more sophisticated ways in realms of business and structure. And you can be an example if you relate in realistic and structured ways. You can give and be an example of faith, spirituality, creativity, and purpose. So you can bring a reason to justify a leap of faith. You can bring a purpose, or you can bring just a way to share the purpose, the vision, creativity, and spirituality behind new routines and patterns in the realm of communication and sophistication. On the negative side, you can catch up a little bit of insecurity, nervousness, and instability when it comes to relationships and communicating in the realm of business and structure. But also you might feel more encouraged or easier to relate with yours and others' relationships, responsibilities, limits, and boundaries, especially and way more easily when you can see, feel, and relate to their purpose, to their vision, creativity, and spirituality. And your tarot card for this transit is the Nine of Wands. This means that you can elevate your way to see, imagine, feel, be unique, creative, and spiritual. And because it's a Venus in Capricorn reading, let's focus that in that realm. So that means you can elevate yourself, your relationships, your commitments, and your structures if you can bring uniqueness, spirituality, faith, and creativity into realms of business, practicality, and structure, or vice versa. If you can bring relationships and commitment in a structured, responsible, and profitable way, you can expand your own wisdom, your own knowledge, your own spirituality and creativity, and how you can associate and be seen in a responsible, practical, valuable, and profitable way in your surroundings, so others can associate with your wisdom and knowledge, with your faith, with your beliefs, and they can believe that they can profit from it. And then it's up to you to be very clear and realistic If you, for example, you're not sure how to profit, you're not sure how to be consistent, you're not sure how to be real, you're not sure how to be relatable, because people can, through Venus in Capricorn, relate to you in a more realistic way, and they can understand that if you're real, they will understand your struggles, they will understand your responsibility, if they already seen your purpose and spirituality, and then they themselves, as a group or as a unique conversation or relationship, can support you and build something together with you, a relationship, a connection, a business, or a structure that brings more sophistication, relatability, pleasure, and commitment, so you can have a more stable yet innovative stability and circumstance to profit and have security out of you, elevating your ability to see and express your uniqueness, creativity, and spirituality. And also you can elevate your image or your perspective, your vibe, to a certain level where it will be very easy for others to create business or structure in a sophisticated and committed way with you. Or you can just be casting intentionally and non-intentionally some illusions or imaginations that might be not so realistic, that might not be so profitable, but others can catch that vibe from you, and you might just be doing yourself, you might just be being your expressive, creative, entertaining, and mutable self, and others can create these visions of commitment, stability, profit, having certain routines, certain limits and boundaries, and they can elevate, they can have that illusion be their priority or be what excites them and makes them free, thus increasing the desire for you, the need for you, the control over you. Especially because Mars is in Capricorn, the desire or the need to control or be near you can be really, really intense if you, through your association and mutability, give them or feed them this sense of spirited, energetical, but yet caring and present, which you might not be, you might just giving that vibe because you are expanding yourself, you are elevating yourself, either your imaginations and visions or how realistic you can be while being spirited. So in a good way, or this is very good though, you have the opportunity to elevate, you have the opportunity to upgrade how you use your spirituality, creativity, and faith, but others can create their own imaginations and then create in their mind and force to create in reality relationships and situations of committed with yourself. And you might not be interested, you might not even be aware, and others might get mad, even revengeful, or wishing you bad things because they just wanted to be with you. They just wanted to be inspired by you or feel like you feel. Even though you might not feel a certain way, others might create this high mind, this very powerful vision about you, and they might think you feel a certain way and they envy you for that. You might not even be feeling like that. I know it's complicated, and it's all you can identify, you can localize these things, because most likely it will be in places of routine and pattern. So your job, things you're building something, things you are participating to gather funds, things that you are participating together with somebody to elevate your status, to elevate your circumstance, things that you are participating as some sort of organization, business, or helping out a school, helping your kids in school, helping your kids sell something. The parents in that group, for an example, they might see you in a delusional way, but they prioritize it and they think your circumstance is very good or very bad, and then they will create a new relationship or a new way to approach you based on that, for an example. I hope that's clear and understandable. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, Saturn, or Mars in Capricorn, you are conjuncting Venus in Capricorn. So now you are the example of how to relate or not, or to how not to relate in more realistic and business-like ways. Or you might be the thing to be related about, and you might not desire that, you might not be able to deal with that, or you might actually want too much to be the thing to be related to, or that others are relating about and socializing about. So you might be going through new scenarios when it comes to your relationships, or you might be forced to create new relationships or new dynamics to your relationships, especially if they are in the realms of business, routine, pattern, limits, and structure. Also, your status might change, or the way you relate to others based on your status might change, and the way that others relate and commit to you based on your status might change. So your status might not even change, but just the way you value it or the ways that others value it might change. Your tarot card for this Venus transit is the Four of Wands. So that means that others and you, through relationships and ways to commit and have pleasure, are creating more realistic, intelligent, dry, and rational ways to approach and express feelings, visions, imagination, creativity, and spirituality, or you just via yourself, via others, or in order to relate better in realms of business, you are bringing more organization, a more business mind, and a more profit-focused way to look at your own and others' ways to express feelings, visions, imaginations, creativity, spirituality, purposes, wisdom, knowledge, and personal testimonies. This is good because you can be more organized about your feelings, visions, and purposes, or you might quote unquote kill the dream, kill the vibe by being too logical and too dry, and you might be forcing others to do this since you are the element that Venus is in, or others might think that you are doing this, being super structured or too much limiting and bounding when it comes to their own, especially testimonies, wisdom, and knowledge. But in the end of the day, if you can bring organization and structure to yours, or the relationships, visions, and purposes, you and your partners can benefit from that. Also, on a positive side, this tells me a bit of Pisces energy, which is you can make profit, you can make business and structure out of feelings, emotions, personal testimonies, creativity, spirituality, faith, belief, and imaginations right now. You just gotta learn and create new ways to relate in your own terms right now because Venus is in Capricorn, and you gotta make others see, relate, value, and commit to those realistic, structured, and organized ways to see value, relate to it, and then profit from it. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, Saturn, Uranus, or Mercury in Aquarius, you are fatal attracting Venus in Capricorn. This means you can give to relationships and situations of commitment, pleasure, and societal interaction that are more real but yet private and interior and internal. You can give consistency, stubbornness, uniqueness, lightness, and individuality, and you can receive from relationships and place of commitment more care, more responsibility, more understanding and relatability towards responsibility, limits, boundaries, profit, and how to value what you can give and the rewards that you can receive from relationships and places of business and structure. Capricorn is the feminine side of Saturn, and Aquarius is the external side of Saturn. So Venus in Capricorn can bring balance, but also some insecurity and some misunderstandings or blockages or more subconscious patterns to communicating, relating, valuing and have pleasure. But if you are a more spiritual and emotional capable Aquarius, you'll find the pleasure, you'll find the support and the refreshment, revitalization of more internal, purposeful, cute and soft relationships in places of business and practicality, or you'll be able to initiate more safety, security, pleasure and structure in your own personal relationships and places of commitment and exchange of values. In general, Venus in Capricorn means that people will take Aquarius a bit more serious if Aquariuses know how to relate about the world, about limits, about boundaries, about struggling, about sacrifice, about responsibility. It also means that Aquariuses will be more open to receive responsibilities, pressure, care, and purpose from themselves and others if the Aquarius can see or be shown the purpose, the strength, the willpower, and the value in the situation, in the association, or in the reward out of the association. And unironically, the tarot card for Aquariuses relating to Venus in Capricorn 2025 and 2026 is Saturn, the world, the ruling planet of both Venus and Capricorn. So first instance, this can mean the completion of a cycle, Saturn, but also it means completing the full picture, completing the full circle. Aquariuses being the top half of the circle, Capricorn being the bottom half of the circle of Saturn. So here Aquariuses have the opportunity in their relationships and places of commitment to bring extreme balance, extreme stability, extreme relatability, fairness, and justice if they can develop new ways to relate, or if they can be open to others, new ways to relate in more serious, responsible, purposeful, and valuable ways. Also, more personal, more intense, without removing the Aquarius' innovative, aerial, and playful, joyful nature out of the equation. Also, it means that Aquariuses now can see or have the opportunity to create the ability to see and to experience the reward or the lack of the reward about their structure, their business, their status, their routines, and their patterns. So through relating or the lack of relationships in those areas, Aquariuses can calculate and straight up feel the reward or the lack of it, and then decide or have some idea of why they accomplished or under-accomplished. Also, this means that Aquariuses can relate in a very good way, in a very profitable way, about structure, limits, and boundaries. Also means that Aquarius now can develop new ways to be more aware of the value, the structure, the networking, and association in personal and social relationships. This means that Aquarius can now show their side that others sometimes ignore or find hard to understand. Aquarius can show their wisdom, their knowledge, and their purpose behind what they are so fixed and stubborn about when it comes to thinking and communicating in unique ways about reality and structure. Now everybody has an easier time to at least initiate new ways to relate with intent to how Aquariuses see and act upon the world, because especially high octave Aquariuses have good purposes, humanitarian and individual purposes, to still be structured, to still have routine and pattern, but in a unique and rewarding way, not in a way that enslaves them, not in the way that stops them from achieving what they want just to have status, safety, or security. So it's easier for Aquariuses to show their world, to show their visions about the world to everybody else and even to themselves in a more relatable way, in a more committed way, if it's more realistic and structured. So it's also easier for others to commit to this vision and actions or patterns of the Aquariuses if the Aquarius is showing the reality, the purpose, the goal, and the intention behind how they see the world and how they act in the world. If you have Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Neptune, or Jupiter in Pisces, you are now sextiling Venus in Capricorn. This means you have an opportunity to initiate new relationships and new ways to commit in more realistic, limited, and structured ways. Also, others can initiate new ways to relate to you and to see your value or your gullibility in the realms of reality, structure, business, and organization. So you have an opportunity to bring your dreams, illusions, imaginations, and spirituality to realms of structure and business in a more relatable or gullible way. It's also easier for others to feel for you, to fall for you. Others might be just too judgmental and wanting you, needing you to relate and commit in more realistic and structured ways. And you can do that, but because as a Pisces will hold many times that spirituality, that creativity, and those feelings and emotions, you can relate to their level. Venus is exalted in Pisces. You want to relate, you need to relate, you want to commit, you need to commit, but others might be not understanding, not being aware of how you carrying those feelings and that spirituality, and they want you or they need you in order to feel comfortable and acceptable, they need you to drop that. But you can't, and the thing is, you can commit to what they need, but they don't think you can, or they don't feel like it, because you have more than what they want, you have more than the parameters. Or others might just minimize the value that you have, or that your imaginations and feelings have. And that might be justified in case you can create a better way to relate and show them the value in realistic ways, or they might be low-key haters. They might want to undermine you and your image when it comes to bringing dreams and spirituality into places where creativity can be profitable. Also, you yourself can look at your routines and patterns and relate to them in a more pleasurable and committed way. So you can relate to why you should limit yourself, or why you go through certain routines, or why you are associating yourself, creating networking, or creating a certain status, and you can relate to it and then make others relate to that as well in a more valuable, sophisticated and responsible way. And in general, it's easier for you to bring your dreams and illusions into yours and others' realities by initiating new, relatable and practical ways to commit and communicate. On the negative side, it's also we have an opportunity to be easier deceived and gullible when it comes to realms of reality and structure if somebody else communicates to you in a realistic and structured way that makes you feel your spirituality and emotions accepted, and then you're going to be gullible and not apply the limits and boundaries to keep your energy and to keep your profit. So pay attention to that. And the tarot card for you in Venus in Capricorn 2025 and 2026 is the Seven of Pentacles. This means that you are separating from a structure, a situation or responsibilities, or you are separating from feelings, emotions, thoughts, ideas, or ways to approach certain responsibilities, physical circumstances, networking and associations. So you can be literally separating from a situation that involves reality and safety, and are you looking for new, better situations and responsibilities? Or you might already be detaching mentally and emotionally while still maintaining that routine that you want to separate from, while you are creating or looking for a better one. Or you might just be separating from feelings, purposes and illusions about a circumstance or your circumstance in general, and now you getting into new feelings and into new emotions and visions about the situation, or why you keep yourself in the situation, or why you want to upgrade, or why you need to upgrade. This can mean an upgrade where you actually go to a better situation, but keep in mind, I don't want to make fun of y'all, but Pisces can go very delusional, especially if you are emotionally perturbed. If you don't have a stable circumstance, you might get delusional, or if you might not feel fulfilled, if you don't feel with space to travel, if you don't feel taken care of, if you don't feel like you are a part of a world that it's worthwhile being a part of, if you don't feel like you can support something good, spiritual, but yet with structure, you might think that your current structure is really bad and it's hurting you and it's taking you away from your potential, and you might go into a more freeing, a more light and less responsible, less intense, less personal situation, and you're just escaping. So be careful with that. You know what I'm saying? On the positive side, this can be a sign of refreshing your purpose, your efficiency, and your way to approach routines, patterns, limits, and boundaries. Or this means that others are detaching from you, making the situation lighter and easier to organize, while opening doors for you to attract and keep better teammates, supporters, and just people that enjoy you, your creativity, your vibe, and your spirituality. Also, keep in mind this is about Venus in Capricorn, so you might be separating from certain relationships and commitments when it comes to real, structural, and profitable realms, or you are detaching from certain visions, pleasures, routines, and patterns within the relationships without losing the relationships in themselves. Just a little separating in order to get inspired and have more space for something better or something new. And this is the end of Capricorn of Venus in Capricorn 2025-2026 tarot reading for all signs. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope now you know a bit more about how you personally can relate, commit, have pleasure and relationships in more realistic, structured, profitable, and responsible ways. Thank you for watching. I wish you the best thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and a whole bunch of individuality, creativity, and responsibility as well. To the next reading, esoteric cloud surfer, surfing out, keep yourself spirited!